How's it going, guys? This is Jack here with the Commander's Wire, and welcome back to another video. The offseason is right around the corner, and I decided it'd be a good time to look over some pending free agents that the Commanders could target here in the future. As a result of something I saw on X today, I'm going to start out with the running back room and what that could look like at the start of the 2026 season. The first guy I want to name is Rachaad White. He last played with the Buccaneers through the 2025 season. For some context, he has a pass-catching background, as he was the first man up when Bucky Irving first got injured, but then after a while it turned into a two-man show where Sean Tucker took a lot of the early down snaps and Rachaad White taking a lot more of snaps on passing downs. He was at Arizona State with Jaden Daniels and also has been very public as of recently about wanting to come to Washington and reunite with Jaden, and he even changed his profile picture to a picture with him and Jaden Daniels on social media. This season, he had 132 carries for 572 yards. He had an average of 4.3 yards per carry with 4 rushing touchdowns. And the receiving, he had 218 yards on 40 receptions and 0 touchdowns. I do think it's a possibility that Rachaad White does come to Washington. However, I don't think that he would be an every down starter, but he could be someone to replace Austin Eckler's role in the passing game. The next guy I wanted to highlight is Tyler Algier, who is currently with the Atlanta Falcons. He is the thumper. He's good on the goal line and in short yardage. He stands at 5'10", 225, so a low and heavy center of gravity, it makes sense that he's so good running up the middle on short yardage situations. And he could be a name to watch to replace Chris Rodriguez being the hammer in the running game. This season, he had 514 yards on 143 carries. He had 8 rushing touchdowns, but he only had 96 receiving yards on 14 carries. So just like Bill, he's not very good when it comes to the passing game. However, he could come in clutch when we need a couple yards out of him, whether it's on the goal line or it's a 4th and 2. Anything in short yardage situations, I see Tyler Algier being a very productive member of the Commanders roster if he is signed. The next player I wanted to highlight is Travis Etienne, who currently is with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's a good all-around running back as well as a receiving back. And this year, he had 1,107 rushing yards on 260 carries. He had 7 rushing touchdowns, and he had 292 receiving yards with 6 receiving touchdowns. So obviously, so far, he has been the best running back that I've mentioned. However, when asked about his future in the NFL after their playoff loss, he said that he believes God put him where he was supposed to be, since he never liked the cold weather. So because of that, I think a deal is going to get done with him and the Jacksonville Jaguars front office, and I don't think he's going to be leaving Jacksonville anytime soon. The next player I want to talk about is Kenneth Walker. He currently is a running back for the Seattle Seahawks as they're battling to make it to the Super Bowl and hopefully lift a Lombardi trophy. Kenneth Walker is a speed back with amazing change of direction as well as really good at pass catching. However, his future is uncertain in Seattle depending on how their playoffs turn out. He totaled 1,027 yards on 221 carries, 5 rushing touchdowns, and 282 receiving yards with no receiving touchdowns. I think that he is what Seattle is looking for in their two-headed snake of a running game. He has a similar role to what Jahmyr Gibbs has with the Lions. There's also some uncertainty with his health. It seems as if Seattle likes to have a split backfield because every time they start to utilize him too much, he always seems to get injured. The next running back I wanted to touch on is Isaiah Pacheco, currently with the Chiefs. He had that one good year with the Chiefs when they went on that Super Bowl run, but unfortunately he has struggled with injuries in the past. This year he had 462 rushing yards on 118 carries with 1 rushing touchdown, and then he had 101 receiving yards on 19 receptions and 1 receiving touchdown. He was not very productive this year. He's also struggled with injuries, so I don't blame him for having those low stats. I also just don't know if he's the type of player that would mesh really well in the locker room here in Washington, so I don't think he should be someone high on our list. Next running back I wanted to touch on is Rico Dowdle. I think that he was a very productive running back for Carolina, but he's definitely getting older as he'll be 28 years old once the 2026 season starts. This year he had 1,076 rushing yards on 236 attempts. He had 6 rushing touchdowns. He had 297 receiving yards and then 1 receiving touchdown. The only way I see him in Washington is on another cheap prove-it deal, which I don't think is very likely for him as he had a very good season with Carolina and is probably looking for what could be his last major contract here in the NFL. The next running back is Najee Harris. He's another younger running back, but he struggled with major injuries in the past. This year, Najee Harris only had 61 rushing yards on 15 attempts and 25 receiving yards. Obviously, he had that really major injury earlier in the season, so can't blame him for putting up these stats when he was just sitting on the couch. But he could be a name to watch this coming offseason and could be someone that we could get on a cheap deal. The next running back is Javonte Williams. I think that he's a really good running back. However, he looks like he is the guy in Dallas. He had 1,201 rushing yards on 252 carries with 11 touchdowns and 137 receiving yards with 2 receiving touchdowns. I think he's definitely someone that could get you 5 yards a carry on early downs, but I cannot see a world where Jerry Jones moves on from him like he did with Tony Pollard and Rico Dowdle. But that wouldn't be the craziest thing Jerry Jones has done and could be a name to watch in Washington if he's made available through free agency. This next guy, I'm going to go over pretty quickly because I don't really see a world where he comes to Washington, but that would be J.K. Dobbins. I think he's a pretty solid early down running back that can be productive. However, he gets injured every year, and I don't see that being a recipe for success. Before he got injured, he had 772 rushing yards on 153 attempts. He had 4 rushing touchdowns, and he only had 37 receiving yards. So I think J.K. Dobbins could be a solid bridge running back. However, I don't see him being part of the future here in Washington. This last guy I think has the most potential, being Breece Hall. Breece Hall is an amazing all-around running back, both in the run game as well as in the passing game. He could be utilized all over the field, whether it's 1st and 10, 3rd and short, or even within the 5-yard line. This year, keep in mind, on the Jets offense, Breece Hall had 1,065 yards on 243 carries, 4 rushing touchdowns, 350 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Though already having multiple years in the league, he is still younger than Bill Croskey-Merritt, turning 25 in May. Breece Hall could be the answer to all parts of our run game, and with the Commanders having over $70 million in cap space, I can see Adam Peters signing Breece Hall to a 3 or 4 year deal for $11 to $12 million a year, being that he is so young and having that guarantee of Bill right behind him, still on his rookie contract, makes a move like that not as risky. On top of that, with the Jets being so horribly run and putting out the absolute garbage on the field for the last couple years with Breece Hall there, I think Breece Hall coming to an organization with a top 5 talent quarterback leading the offense, a top 12 dynamic playmaker in Terry McLaurin running routes, and arguably a top 10 rated O-line in the NFL, it'd be a no-brainer for Adam Peters to bring a talent like this for David Blau to use, while also not underpaying him for the talent that he is. I think the only way to do this is to slightly overpay for Breece Hall. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be involved in bringing Breece Hall into the organization, but I think it'd be worth it. Breece is still very young and could easily make a difference in our run game. So after that list, I'm going to put together some potential running back rooms I could see the Commanders making. First off, currently we have Bill Croskey-Merritt, C-Rod, and Jeremy McNichols. I think going into next season, C-Rod will be the easiest player to replace as he's a pending free agent, and he has a very single-sided role in our offense, being that he was really only used to run the ball rather than being used in the passing game as well. I think best case scenario for the Commanders would be signing Breece Hall to, like I said, a 3 or 4 year deal worth upwards of $11 or $12 million a year. Then we have the safety blanket backup running back in Bill right behind him, as well as signing Rachaad White in free agency to be that 3rd down receiving running back out of the backfield. This next running back room would be, I think, a slightly step down. However, having Bill and C-Rod being the 1 and 2, more like the 1A and 1B, still could be very productive for the Commanders, as we still have Jaden Daniels being a 3rd aspect to our run game, and then we would also sign Rachaad White in free agency to be that 3rd down receiving back. This next one is a little bit of a curveball. I would be signing Najee Harris to a very short-term cheap deal coming off of his major injury. We would then have Bill and C-Rod still as our 1A and 1B, and then you could work in Najee Harris as well in the run game as well as with the passing game. Next, we can move on from C-Rod and sign a guy like Tyler Algier. We would then have Bill Croskey-Merritt come in on early downs, and then have Tyler Algier come in on short yardage downs as well as on the goal line to fight for a couple extra yards. We then have options for our third down back, being that we could run with McNichols, or we could even sign Rachaad White in free agency as well. Now, the rest of the running backs I've listed before are most likely not coming to Washington. Like J.K. Dobbins and Isaiah Pacheco have been, as of recently, very injury prone. Travis Etienne, Kenneth Walker, and Javonte Williams are all most likely staying where they are now, and Rico Dowdle likely looking for a big contract and could price himself out of Washington. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you're enjoying the content, please go down below, drop a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to know when I post next. I really appreciate it. And let me know down below what you guys want to see in the 2026 season with our run game. Would you guys want Adam Peters to sign a guy like Breece Hall, or are you guys willing to roll with what we have currently with Bill, C-Rod, and Jeremy McNichols? Just let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless, and hail to the Commanders.